Assalamu alaikum, I'm Hiba.
And I'm Zaid,
You're listening to Diary of a Matchmaker.
a podcast that will take you into our world as matchmakers.
We'll share our experiences and offer advice for the single Muslim.
So let's dive in.
Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Welcome to another episode. This is your matchmaker Hiba, and on the other mic is your matchmaker Zaid.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
I have a feeling we're gonna piss off a lot of people in this episode.
No, I don't think so.
I think the title of the episode are gonna make some people intrigued, which is Parents, Dictators, or Overprotectors.
Yeah, this episode... Sorry, go ahead.
Why did we choose this strong language? Because of what you're about to listen to. So, What do you think? Are parents dictators or overprotectors?
Well, alhamdulillah, we're fortunate to have very supportive and understanding parents. This episode, like you said, is entirely dedicated to parents because we had a few specific incidences with potential clients that made us focus on this episode.
Mm-hmm.
So in regards to our personal experiences, alhamdulillah, when we were first talking, we were very fortunate to have supportive parents that were open-minded. As you guys already know, we are an interracial couple. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, you got this look on your face like, are we? So that was actually, I remember this when I was first talking to you, I thought, your parents aren't going to be open to you marrying a brown guy. Because I thought that was like a big thing with Palestinians and Syrians, that you guys just really aren't open to somebody outside of your ethnicity.
I think it's a problem for Palestinians, for Arabs in general, living in the West. Once you get out of the village, you want to start looking for people who come from the village for some reason.
I get it. So when we were first talking, and you told your mom and your dad that, hey, I'm talking to a guy that's Pakistani, how did your parents react?
Cool. It never came up as a problem, honestly. They cared about your personality, your deen, your family, not about your ethnicity.
Yeah. Okay.
I think their only concern was the language barrier, because how would they communicate with you and your parents?
Yeah, but alhamdulillah, you were able to convince them and we were able to make it work.
Yeah, it didn't need much convincing, honestly. They liked it, yeah.
Alhamdulillah. And on my end, the crazy thing is, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but you already know this, that mom is a frequent visitor of Al-Quds, Jerusalem. And she would always make a dua that I marry somebody from that area.
Subhanallah.
Right? And I didn't know this. I think I found this out after we got married. And here we are today.
So your mom's dua always come true. So to the listeners, when she goes to pray, we call it her magic carpet, because whatever she prays for on her, what do you call it? Janamaz?
Yeah.
It always comes true. Yeah.
Yeah. My mom was supportive. I mean, she had some concerns that, you might be somebody that's trying to scam me for immigration or something. But aside from that ridiculous concern, she was open-minded, and alhamdulillah, here we are married today. Mm-hmm. So in our case, we neither had dictators nor overprotectors. We had supportive, flexible parents.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. But in the case of some of our clients, that isn't necessarily what we're seeing.
Unfortunately.
A
lot of the cases we listen to, honestly, it boils my blood. And I want to say so much to this person. Talk to your parents. You're being controlled beyond what's allowed by Islam. And of course, you got to be professional. So we got to find a way to convey it.
Yeah. So let's start with the most recent call. Recent as in we were just rewatching it to collect some notes. So I will keep it as private and confidential as we can, and we'll call this girl Zainab, who is from the Middle East. And so we took her call, and she's in her mid-30s. And she was sharing a lot of her struggles trying to get married, and it was actually sad and funny at the same time listening to her call. And what was she saying in the beginning?
Well, first of all, she said, I'm extremely busy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have time to network and all of that. I'm like, just finish being busy and then look for marriage.
Right? Like the best analogy is like you go to a doctor and say, I'm fat, I don't eat right, I smoke all day, I drink all day, I sit on the couch, and I need you to fix me.
And I don't want to change.
And I don't want to change, but I need you to fix me. That's basically what the call was like. And we had to remain calm and professional and give some sincere advice.
And the cherry on top was that she just started looking.
Yes, in her mid-30s, she just started looking. And so we asked her the same question that we ask all people on these calls, which is, what are you looking for in a potential spouse? So we asked her, okay, are you open to someone outside of your ethnicity? And she said no. And
she said she is, but her parents are not.
Well, you're right. She said she is, but her parents are not. And then we said, okay, so what are your parents' preferences? They said they want someone from the Middle East.
And specific countries in the Middle East, not all the Middle East even.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then we asked, okay, are you open to someone younger than you? She said, no, my parents would not be okay with that. Mm. And every question that we asked her, the immediate response was, my parents are not okay with that. Mm. Oh no, I don't think my parents would be okay with that. And it got to a point where I just couldn't take it in what I said. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say that even her parents are not okay with her pursuing matchmakers.
Yes.
So she was going to keep the search private and then
come up with some lie.
Exactly, yeah. And honestly, I do empathize and sympathize with this girl because, like, what are you gonna do? Like, disobey your parents and go marry someone and let them disown you? And like, we don't do that, right? And we're not, of course, encouraging anyone to do that,
right? And
this is why this episode is directed to parents, not to like their children to rebel against their parents, but parents have some common sense. Remember, like we're Muslims. We are Muslims at the end of the day.
This is dhulm against your children.
This is dhulm, exactly.
It is. You can't oppress your children like this.
Yeah.
You're going to pass away at some point, and your children are going to have to deal with the fact that they don't have a companion.
And her parents, they're like, no, like, just keep waiting and keep making dua and have patience. And like, you are, like you said, making dhulm against your children. Mm-hmm. And then you expect them to have like birr al-walidain, and like you can't demand them when you're doing dhulm to them, right?
Yeah.
So to anyone who's listening, if you find yourself in this position, we're not advising you go rebel against your parents, do something behind their back, disobey your parents. Not at all. That's not our message here.
We'll get to the solutions towards the end.
Yeah.
But in this specific case, there was so many layers and layers to this problem that we had to unpack. And I told her that you need to seriously have a heart-to-heart conversation with your parents. And she says, I speak to my parents every week, and they're just not budging, that they're very stubborn. And we had to wrap up the call and let her know that, unfortunately, with your restrictions and the difficulty in regards to your age, we won't be able to help you. Or that at the very least we can put you on a wait list. Yeah. And if something comes up, because we know what it's like working with Arab men. Arab men are very picky and difficult, and they're not very open to somebody who's crossed 30 years old.
They want somebody who's like at least 5 years younger. I don't know what's up with you Arab guys, if you're listening. Like, what's wrong with you? I'm sorry, but it just boils my blood.
Yeah. Okay,
and this girl was, mashallah, very beautiful, like highly educated, intelligent, successful, and yet when it comes to her parents, she doesn't have a say.
Yeah. And the second thing, and this was boiling your blood more than mine, was the fact that she said, I'm so busy, and then on her registration form it said what?
She wants to be a housewife.
That she's okay with being a housewife.
So you invested the last 10 years building your career only to become a housewife after marriage?
We're not downplaying the role of being a housewife.
Not at all.
But it's just a glaring contradiction that you are investing so much into this for what? For what? I don't understand.
I mean, if you want to be a housewife, which is very, very admirable, then you should have started your search early and like compromised on your career. But
to each their own.
Exactly. Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So let's move on to case number 2.
This one is even harsher.
Yes. So this girl, will call her Fatima. And
we always find ourselves choosing the same names, by the way. Fatima, Aisha, or Zainab. Okay, let's call her Khadija for a change.
Let's say Khadija. Khadija, who is in her 40s.
Early 40s.
Early 40s. And
she's the sweetest girl ever.
Very sweet girl. Told us that she's never been married before. So when she started sharing what her journey has been like, a lot of things stood out that really boiled my blood. And a few of them was, my parents were not okay with someone outside of the family. They weren't even okay with someone outside of the ethnicity.
So in the beginning, they wanted someone in the family, and then when she crossed her 30s, they became more flexible. It has to be within the ethnicity, which is a sub-ethnicity. And now when she turned she's over 40, now they're like, they don't care. She said they don't care who I get married to. They don't care even if I get married. And like, what a great zulum these parents have done. Like,
she's missed out on the prime years of her life.
Only because her parents were so stubborn. Like,
yeah. And the cherry on top is that she said she wanted to stay close to her parents to take care of her parents. So now she's creating another restriction on top of her age with geographical location. So she, I'm not going to say specifically where she resides, but during that call, she mentioned that she would not like to relocate.
Yeah, we tried to give her sincere advice, and it actually worked, because she told us later that she reconsidered, and she's open to relocating. But honestly, if I put myself in her shoes, like, I admire her for having such great love and respect to her parents. Me, myself, honestly, it's gonna sound harsh, but if my parents did something like this to me, I wouldn't sacrifice my future to look after them.
Wow, that is a bit harsh.
But I'm not saying
right upon them.
I'm not saying I'm not gonna talk to my parents or anything, but I'm not gonna miss out on a good opportunity to get married.
Yeah,
like, they did this to her.
Yeah, I mean, at some point you have to decide, and I've said this, I think, in private conversations with you, that me personally, and this is just my personal opinion, that you, in certain aspects of life, you as a son or a daughter have the right to overrule your parents. All right, the person you marry, the education or career you choose, things like that, things that will remain with you after your parents pass.
So overruling, that's like the last, very, very, very last resort.
Right.
And it's only like in extreme situations.
So I'm not talking about the Islamic perspective. I'm just talking about my personal opinion.
even Islamically.
Which we'll get to in a second.
Yeah. There's always room for conversation, for involving a third party, for just like having a sincere, loving conversation with them, and let them see where you're coming from in a loving way. Right? Like Prophet Ibrahim, when he was calling his father to Islam, he kept telling him, Ya abati, Ya abati. And abati means my loving father, my dear father, right? And his father was rebelling against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he was threatening him. And at some point, he, like, with the rest of the people in the group, in the village, tried to throw him in the fire. And he kept saying, Ya abati, Ya abati. So there's always room for conversation and involving someone who they have high respect towards, maybe an uncle, an imam, like a community leader, somebody.
So I was just about to get into that.
In most cases, this would work.
Yes. So let's talk a little bit about the Islamic perspective. How can girls overrule their parents if injustice is happening? Are they allowed to? Are they not allowed to? And what is the right method to go about doing that?
So, like I said, the first step is always conversation,
Mm-hmm.
involving a third party, making dua, do all of that, because in most cases, this would work. If there is nothing wrong with the guy, with his deen, he wasn't a drug addict, wasn't an alcoholic, he wasn't an abuser. Like, if he was a good person, in most cases, people would just come around, right?
Mm-hmm.
Conversation didn't work, like we said, involved a third party. It still didn't work. You need to think about this. Is it worth it for you to go against your parents and to marry this guy? Are you so sure of this guy? Are you willing to bet your relationship with your parents on this?
Mm-hmm.
If the answer is yes, then you can, like you said, overrule your parents. Because, and if you were living in a Muslim country, that would happen through a judge. The judge
Right.
would become your wali,
Mm-hmm.
right? And he would marry you to this person.
Mm-hmm.
And since we don't live in a Muslim country, you can involve an imam or a community leader, somebody, and they would take on the role of being your wali and marrying you to this person. But they're going to do their due diligence to make sure that this person is a good person, that your parents are being totally unreasonable, right?
Yeah.
This is a way. Like we said, this episode is directed to parents. What advice can you give parents?
What advice I would give parents? I think one piece of advice is that your children have rights over you. That you, as a provider, as a caretaker, have a responsibility to not deprive your child of what is due to them, which is a righteous companion. So there is a framework that, and our alhamdulillah, our religion is very flexible and easy to implement. And there is a basic framework that goes into solving this problem. If the guy is righteous, if the guy is practicing, and if your daughter finds him attractive, if he meets these certain basic requirements, then there is no reason for you to say no.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah. I would say, honestly, just go back to the deen. Like, in our deen, you'll find answers to every situation, every question. The Prophet ﷺ told us, إِذَا جَاءَكُم مَّن تَرْضَوْنَ دِينَهُ وَخُلُقَهُ. If someone with a good character and good deen proposes, then marry them. He didn't say if they come from this ethnicity. He didn't say if he earns this much. He didn't say if he has this degree, or he is this height, or he lives in this area, right? So know that when you are prohibiting your daughter or son from marrying someone for unreasonable reasons, you are going against the Prophet ﷺ. You are going against Islam. You are committing a sin, basically. You're committing a sin towards your children, against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you're doing injustice against your children. And you will pay for this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will hold you responsible and accountable for this. Do you really want to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with this burden on your shoulder?
Right.
Like, you think your child will forgive you like on the day of judgment and all of that, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, on that day people would be running away from their, like, parents would be running away from their children would be running away from their parents. Everyone's just me, like, it's such a nafsi, exactly. Like, everyone will be worried about themselves, and your child will come after you on that day to take from your hasanat.
In terms of specific practical things that parents can do, if you have, and I know we're focusing a lot on the daughters because they, in most cases, the victims of these situations. If you're a parent and you have a daughter, please start the search early, as young as 20, I would say 19, 20. Just start the search, start the conversation. If your daughter is about to cross 30, that is a matter of concern. And we're talking as professional matchmakers because it is very, very challenging for a daughter to get married past the age of 30. Okay? And just to add to that, and if there's any girls listening that are still single, make this a priority early on in your life. What were you going to say?
I was going to say that even if your daughter hasn't brought up the topic to you, the subject to you, you bring it up with her. Like you said, 19, 20, 21, don't say, oh, let her finish her education and then we'll start looking. Time doesn't wait for anyone. And it's only getting harder and harder. So start that conversation, encourage her, and yeah.
Yeah, and your daughter or even your son has a right to find someone that is compatible for them and not you. I understand family compatibility does play a part, but when you're living in the West and you're living as a minority, we've said this in workshops and previous episodes, you don't have the luxury to pick and choose. There are more important things than status, ethnicity, and education. And treat people as a whole. I don't know if that makes much sense, but...
No, it does. Yeah, holistically.
Holistically. You know, don't like try to, customize a takeout order when it comes to, trying to find a good, suitable spouse for your son or daughter.
Yeah.
And this isn't how it works. We're human beings. We have our flaws. And if you raise your children right, then allow them to make the mature, sensible decision, while of course being, a source of wisdom and guidance. But don't impose. Be a source of understanding and compassion, and realize that it is very difficult finding somebody in the West. And the more restrictive you are as a parent, the more injustice and more difficult you're going to make it for your children. So be easy on your children, be a source of guidance and support.
Yeah, 100%. Okay.
Anything else you want to add?
No, just send us some fan mail if you know someone who's been through similar situation, or if you yourself, you're looking for some advice, send us a fan mail. It's completely private. Also, rate this show. Come on. We do it every single week. Rate this show to keep us going.
It helps us stay motivated, inspired.
Yeah, but if you're going to rate it at 1 or 2 stars, then don't rate it.
All right, till next time, guys.
Inshallah.
All right,
Assalamu alaikum.